Okay. Hmm. 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 Okay. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good evening to those who are now joining. This is Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey coming to you live out of Georgetown, Guyana. A very pleasant good night to you. Good evening. Good afternoon to whichever part of the world you're now joining. Good afternoon, good night, good day, good morning. Share the live as you will now have that notification. Share the live, share the live, share the live, share the live. This evening, it's a very wonderful topic. The topic is based upon are we living a myth or fiction? And we're going to have a nice little discussion into it. And I'll be able to, you know, divulge on it some more to those who are now joining. So share the live as you come in. I will take another minute or so until I start. So share the live, share the live, share the live. Uh, oh, yes, excuse me there. Okay. Share the live as you now come in. Share the live. Let me see. Could turn down this little brightness. Display sound notification, focus assist, battery storage nearby. I'm going to go into display brightness. Wonderful. Oh, it's too high. hmm Okay, night light. It's on. HDR more about display resolution. Okay, have a minute more. Yeah, good. I was uh, I was still setting to those who are looking. I was still setting something here on the system to make sure that I get a good resolution. So good night to you. Good night. This is Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey here with you tonight to start our program. So, good night to you from Guyana to the Caribbean and around the world. Welcome you tonight to this GMB show, Gavin Matthews-Bey show, Voice of the Nation. To those who are joining me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and to those who are joining me on the GMS Live Radio Guyana. A very, very pleasant good evening to you all. Now, for discussion, you know how I started to change up the topic a bit for the past week because I wanted to let you know what am I into and what I'm teaching you. I am taking you on a journey so you will able to proclaim your nationality, which is your title, as your title represents the land in which you live on for your foreparents who were first here before European slavery and any other group of people. And it's what you call a proclamation. And before we get into all these different things of a proclamation, I must help you to understand where I am taking you through. I am taking you through a doorway, and before I meet that door to proclaim your nationality, to proclaim who you are as an Aboriginal, I'm helping you to stand over or to comprehend what you need to know before you enter into that doorway. By no saying do, tonight's topic is based upon two things: what is myth and what is fiction. Both is a figment of one's imagination because both is not real. But we live by both of them. And just to explain to you why I say we live by both of them, right? Now, let me show you a little instance. As the story says, Constantine conquered and ruled the world for a particular period of time. Now, as he go about laying siege to cities and to countries and to lands where people lived as indigenous or as a civilized people, as you conquer these places, the reality is to change up the system in which they live by. I mean, if you conquer somewhere, if you conquer a piece of land or a place where people are living and you suddenly become a ruler of that position or that place, and you realize that their education was not inferior, you wouldn't want them to be continue educating themselves in that manner. You wouldn't want them to know that your education status or your inferiority is lower than them. Because you conquer them, you'd always let them feel that you wanted to know that you're higher than them. Your education standards and levels is higher than them. You wouldn't want them to know that, well, boy, these people are far more advanced more than us. So the first thing you do is get rid of their information. You get rid of their universities, you kill their professors, their teachers, you burn books, you destroy evidence, artifacts, sacred writings. You literally destroy their culture. And for you to destroy their culture, you have to separate them, divide them up. You'll have to send them to far ends of the earth, to places which you control. Or you'll have to move them from place to place within the place that they're living so they can have access to these information standards. And the other thing is also to divide families. So fathers can't teach children and mother can't teach children. So you're left wanted. You create now a space of vacancy within the family unit. You destroy the family, you break them up, you enslave them. You teach them that they are goods and products and services. That's all they're good for, nothing more else. So this is what Constantine did, right? So imagine if you conquer the land in which you are, and then you tell the people, did the people still have the education? Well, look, you're equal just like me. What do you think will happen? They will fight back. But if you destroy their culture and destroy their standards, and by telling them that they're inferior to you, and change up their belief system to show them that they're inferior to you, they will believe. They would believe. So in order for them to believe, you have to control the information that goes to them. You have to control the level of education. Well, they move the side education and they put, hold on, wait. They move the side education, they put education. We can be educated, but when you say educated, you're now talking about animals. So eventually now we're treated as animals. We're treated as horse, pigs. How you think the Willie Lynch system came in when they talk about cattle slavery? We are the only living souls on earth went through cattle slavery. Cattle means animal, poultry. You tie a guide on the horse's head because his eyes see 180 degrees. You understand? And you tie a guide like a girdle on his head, and you could only see straight in front of him. And you have a bridle in his mouth, tied up with ropes, and you guide him where you want him to go. That's the system we live by. We live by an animalistic system. You understand? That's why we become educated. The system, it is designed is that particular way, so we can become educated. And there are different levels of education. That's how they train animals. They train them by different levels. Although most of them might be horses, but they're designed to do certain things. Some of them are designed to grade the field. Some of them are designed to pull pontoon along the trenches. Some of them are designed to be race horses. Some of them are designed to be ridden upon as luxury. That's levels of education. Only animals can be educated, and they treat us that way. So we now feel that we're inferior to those that are Caucasites, Caucasians. But what is happening with them now? They try to change history. Remember now, they don't have their own history. They don't have their own story. You understand? They just came out of the areas in which they live in the mountains of Caucasus. But they came with nothing. They came into our civilization and meet everything. We taught them. We put clothes on their back. We taught them to stay healthy by scrubbing their teeth, not with a toothbrush, with a piece of stick and a piece of charcoal. We taught them to have a bath 2, 3 times a day to stay clean and healthy. We taught them to be civilized to those who are looking this evening. Hold on. But I want us to discuss this specific thing so we can help ourselves to understand, or sorry, to stand over the information that is provided to us. You understand? So we can comprehend what is given to us. And so the difference is that because of the inferior teaching, right? And we have so that he was taught a myth. We were taught a myth because of the inferior teaching. It's like, for instance, our first pope was Methodides or Methodres. That was his name. Our first pope of the Catholic Church is the black man. As a matter of fact, we had three Aboriginal popes. Those were the first popes of the Church of Rome before Rome changed up everything else that we can think of. Until to this day, the church in Rome still worships the three black popes, although they're there in statues. But you see, they're not going to tell us that. The three first popes, they're dark just like me. Aboriginal, because when they went into Egypt, they brought them back from Egypt as high priests and they make them popes because they wanted to know our way of life. It wasn't a religion, it was a culture. Like the word Islam, Islam. It's a culture, it's not a religion. It is the Caucasites who took it and make it a religion. They took Islam and make it a religion. They take Christianity and make it a religion. Hinduism, everything became a religion to them in order to change our standards of knowing into beliefs. To believe something is to make you inferior to whatever you believe in. You had to change the system in which you think. Like if I stand up and I'm all Caucasian and I said, well, look, I am the prophet of the church and you're beneath me. Because I present myself and I teach the lessons and the word that I call the word of God to you, it makes you inferior. And I turn the words around to suit the plagiaristic ideas that I have. Instead of telling you, look, the beginning of knowledge is to erase fear. I teach you fear is the beginning of knowledge. You can you ever comprehend such craziness? How can you develop fear? How can you gain knowledge out of fear? What kind of fear are you talking about? What kind of knowledge are you talking about? Because I know if you develop knowledge, you will erase or eradicate fear because you become knowledgeable of the fact there is no fear. When you read the writings of Prophet Honorable Noble Jew Ali of the Moorish High Science Temple, you will get to understand why, in their understanding of the Quran, there is no submission. You understand? Of those Moorish Americans who are listening, because they got Moorish Americans who are listening, they call me. You'll get to understand that in the Quran, there's no submission like they teach now that you have to submit. You're submitting to what? To submit, you got to bring yourself down to a standard to submit. There's no submission, there's always an evolution. That is why when we talk about religious aspects, is that you follow a leader. As Moorish Americans, there's a respect to the prophet, yes. But he teaches you to arise, to see where you are and evolve. So you can be you either be greater than him or do greater things than he did. That is your position. So combine all these greatness together. It becomes an explosion of evolution and knowledge and law. But the Caucasites doesn't want you to know that. Even if you turn to the Christianity and the Christian religious aspects, you'll get to realize that the teachings is of the same. It's about an evolution. Because if you use Christ's words, he says, there are those who are going to come after me and do greater things than I have done. And he wasn't lying. That's the truth. He said, in my father's house, there are many mansions, but he's waiting for people like himself who can become gods, just like unto those mansions. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was talking about uh, the sudden title that I have. As a matter of fact, yesterday, and because I use the word BEY as Bay, it's Bay now is the name that holds dear to me to my title on the Americas, in which Guyana is. And then he said, "Well, you sounding like you're changing your religion, but there was no religion. If you study the scriptures, you realize the scriptures is a guide to cosmic teachings. The Bible, if you read the Bible properly, you realize it is a guide to cosmic teachings. It's a culture. It's not a religion." Because if you read it, it says in some of those same scriptures and epistles, epistle means letters. When you read those things, you realize that in it he says, "For the earnest expectation of the Creator waited for the manifestations of the sons of God." You got to manifest within yourself the teachings of Him, and to order to manifest, you have to study. You have to study to make proof unto yourself. For he says, "For he who lack wisdom, ask of it." It is simple. Sometimes I used to bypass some of these words, and it says, for he says, uh, "For he made man in his own image and likeness." Man represented him, the Almighty Creator. Man, like myself, and woman, like unto my partner or companion, in his own likeness. What is likeness? In his ways, in his values. His teachings resides within us. So there's no problem with Christianity. As a matter of fact, there's no problem with the Bible. It is just the religious aspects of the teachings of man, of these sacred writings. It's the same thing with the Quran. It's the same thing with the Bible. It's the same thing with the Gita. All these things were designed to be the culture of one's life. Like the word obia. I didn't know. As a matter of fact, I learned that about 3 years ago that obia means obeying the law of nature. And the word obey derived from the word obia. Obia which means this is a Swahilian word for obey. And I didn't even know that. But in order to fool the people, you have to erase their knowledge of the past and bring about a presence based upon a belief system. So they don't know, they believe. So when you believe, you be stagnant because belief only brings about a stagnation of of comprehension. So when the Caucasite stands up and he says, "Well, look, So because that you said, well, then he's greater than me. So now you hold him superior to you. But we don't know it is our past, our history, our culture being brought back to us in a plagiaristic manner. Oh yes, oh yes. As a matter of fact, this was the part I forgot. As a matter of fact, I forgot to write down this part here, and I just asked my friend to remind me of it because I know I left it in the book and I didn't put it down properly. It's like the word Islam, Islam. It means I self law am master. That's what Islam means. But when we say Islam, people think it's about as a Muslim. We understood. You can say Muslim, we say Muslim. But Islam, you understand, which is taught by the Prophet Honorable uh, Noble Juali, said that I, self law, am master. And that's what all we are. I, me, Gavin Matthews-Bey, am self law and master. That's what Islam means. But you see, nobody's going to teach you the truth of these things because they say you're ignorant and you got to pay for it. That's why people who now ask for money who teaches you these things, and they don't teach you everything, they teach you parts of it to arouse your belief standards so you see them as superior to you. They don't want you at no day say that you're just like them, equal to them. And as a matter of fact, that is how it is. I, self law, am master. So let's go back into the teachings, right? There were three popes, three of them, and all of them were aboriginals because they brought them from Egypt to start the church in Rome. And when the church was started, there were 25 aboriginal saints. Some people may say black saints, but they're aboriginal. They weren't Caucasites. They were heavy melanin people, means dark in complexion. So there were enough evidence to show that we were there long before the Caucasites came out of the mountains of Caucasus. They had an entry date. They came from where they came and met us. We taught them civilization. We taught them how to read and write and how to be clean and how to wear clothing. They came and meet everything. And look, ask yourself this question: what have they contributed to the world since they have taken over? Nothing. It's all destruction, war, and rumors of war. Everything that they created were designed to kill each other. The pharmaceutical cooperation was designed to kill each other, to kill man, to eradicate mankind, to kill them out by drugs and science. The Food Administration was designed to do the same thing, to poison you, to tell you that you have to eat to satisfaction. But how much of us know that we have to eat to stay healthy? A lot of us don't know that. We think it's eat to satisfaction. Without you eating, you can't survive. So we become primitive in our thinking. You understand? Hold on, wait. Right. Now I'm reading as I go along too in the comment section so be able to relay and respond. So when we think we have to eat to survive, we become primitive being. That is not so. We don't have to eat to survive. Even if we're talking about those who are Christians, the word of God said, we live by every word that cometh out of our mouth. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded. That means I am edifying you and you're edifying me. We digest, we become healthy. Our body becomes rejuvenated by our own action as am I my brother's keeper. If you check it, sometimes it is required for you to eat 1 or 2 times a day. Allow your digestive tract to work. So the drug administration is there to kill us. The food administration is there to kill us. You understand? And then hold on. We got the way of life, the constructive part of life, which we call civilization. Everything that we are part of, we take part, has a heavy presence of lead in it. The food has the lead, the vaccination has the lead, our surroundings, the house, the chairs, the furniture, everything that we use has some destructive element that takes apart our lives at the end of the day. How much of us would have known that the first 25 saints in the church in Rome were African men? How much of us would have known that? The first three popes were African men. We wouldn't have known that because they didn't know what was their culture. They were bringing the culture to Europe because it was far much more civilized. Why would Rome bring the high priests all the way from Egypt and some of his worshippers and scribes to Rome to add to the civilized system? Because they knew nothing. Nothing. And I'm giving you parts of history as I go by. And the reason why I'm giving you these parts is to show you that the Aboriginal natives were the first and always the first. We made civilization. We created civilization. We created the timetable. We created, you know, let me show you how these people are so smart. That's why I was talking about the other day how the truth is hidden in plain sight. How much of us knows that instead of being 12 months a year, it is 7 months 1 year, and each month carry 52 days. A lot of us don't know that. But here why the truth catch up with the system. The teacher tells you 7 days a week, 4 weeks, 1 month. So if you count 4 weeks, multiply 4 by 7, 2 sevens 14, 14 and 14 is 28. 28 days. So why we have 31 and 30 days? Why do we have 2 and 3 extra days in each month when it's 28 days 1 month? Do we ever check? Do we ever ask the question? I mean, let common sense be our guide. The teacher says 7 days 1 week, 4 weeks 1 month. And they said at the end of the day, at the end of it is 365 days 1 year. Well, let's turn it around. The original way. It is 7 months 1 year. Each month carry 52 days. And if you multiply 52 days by 7, it's going to give you 364 days, 1 year. Not 365, 364 days, 1 year. So they can control the clock, the periodical clock. So they turn it around, study the Bible, and realize the Bible is based upon the zodiac signs, the cosmos, the teachings of the cosmos. They don't want you to know that. And they take from that and add 12 months, 1 year. You know, it's amazing how the truth tends to unfold after a while. You can hide the truth, but you can't hide it for long because you got people like Gavin Matthews-Bey, Dr. Bay, me, who loves to read, who loves to do research, who loves to study the origins of things. Nobody gonna pay me for come and teach my people. I don't have to charge nobody for the knowledge that I have. Freely give, freely receive. I had a discussion today with my children. I said, look, I want you to start picking sense out of nonsense. What is the common thought? Go to school, get an education so you can have a decent job. Those three things, right? Go to jail, become an animal so you can be a slave. And my daughter, like, no, my son, he's like, Dad, what are you talking about? Then I asked him, I said, what do you work for? He said, money. My daughter said, her mother said, in order to have a business, you have to have money. So how would she get money? So I asked her the question. I said, where the food comes from that you eat? She said, from the ground, the soil. I said, have you ever paid the soil money to produce those greens, vegetables, and fruits that you gain, that you eat? Have you ever have? Do you have the thing? Have you ever go out into the backyard where you pick the pumpkin from, the belange from, the papaya, the tomato, and have you ever paid the soil money? Take out literal cash and pay it in order for you to eat? And she says no, she never did. I said, well, start looking at things differently. Ask yourself these questions before people come and tell you craziness. And she said, but how am I going to live? So I asked her, I said, have you ever heard about the indigenous people who lives in the forest? She said, yes. I said, well, I never heard none of them ask and say, if I don't get money, I can't survive. And she said, so you're trying to tell me I got to go back? I said, no, 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 no. What you have to do is to evolve beyond what the level that you're in. So when you stand up and proclaim by proclamation who you are and by title, all of these things that people are talking about, then you realize that you're above that all. Whatever you say and do becomes law, and that's how you survive. These corporations has to pay you because they have entered into a treaty of peace and friendship with your forefathers. So they're entitled to pay you, but they don't want to do that anymore. They took it by storm. Create a system within a system. and hire you to continue that system and enslave your people even more when you yourself can free them. It's all about the teachings, it's all about the knowledge. You check, they will spend money and time hunting a man down like me. Well, you know, me, I mean, I can hunt down, you can't hunt me down. But they will spend money and time to hunt somebody down like me to make sure that the knowledge that I'm giving people they cannot receive. And they will use my own to do that. Call them and give them fiat money that makes no sense with somebody printing in the bottom house. Come look, get this one a $200,000 league, go and find the one and kill him. That's the norm. And you go on and you do what you gotta do and you feel it. Well, hey, boy, you do something. You ain't doing nothing. You're just eradicating history even more. You're taking away from your people. So you ever wonder why the Europeans worship the black Christ? You know, the amazing thing is that the church in Rome worships the black Christ. And out here, you know the amazing thing, they worship the black Christ. Each pope kisses the feet of Saint Peter, a black saint or an aboriginal saint or a melanated saint. Not black. I don't really like use the word black. Each pope, as you be as you crown pope and you wear the symbol, you have to go before Saint Peter. And if you see Saint Peter, he dark more than me. If you see Saint Peter, boy, the boy dark and polished, melanated. I thought I did dark. Saint Peter dark. But gotta go and kiss the feet of Saint Peter. Because the rock in which the chair sits upon, it's the foundation of where Saint Peter the church, and I say Saint Peter the church, Saint Peter the church, that's the way the foundation starts upon that rock. But they will never tell you that. They give you a caucasite. Say, well, look, this is a portrait. You know, they're very smart, you know. You know the amazing thing, they use words that we're not offended with, but we think we know. The Caucasian brother said to me, oh, this is a portrait of Christ. He didn't identify because portrait means something that represents Christ. That's what portrait means. And if you ask me back the same question again, I say, yes, that's Christ. Without a shadow of a doubt. And they use that so can peddle our belief system. So we become more inferior. The more we believe as a people is the more inferior we become. The more we know, it is the more we increase in knowledge. It's the more we progress. To know is a progression. To believe is to be stagnant. And I love these sessions. Believe you me, I really, really do. But they want these things to peddle throughout our community. So we believe. Now they move beyond that. They're peddling homosexuality, making us believe that we're born with it, making us believe that it is a common trend. We're calling it LGBTQ community. It's not a discrimination. You know what it is? It's an attack on our culture as Aboriginals. Why it's an attack? Let me show you. During the days of slavery, a 15-year-old male child, at the age of 15, he must have at least 20 babies with different mothers because he was reared and taught to breed, to bring children in the world. You know, Guyanese folklore culture. Oh yeah, my got grandfather got about 20 something children and we smiling. And we feeling nice with different children. Mother, grandfather got about 20 something children and 40 grandchildren and about 80 great grands. It's woven in our DNA. It's pattern. It was beaten. It was smelted. And the sword was ready and created to do war. That is the Aboriginal people. And for the female, if she's married, she had to be separated from her husband because where the two becomes one, together knowledge begins. So they realize that uprising occurs within the family. When one wants to get away and escape from slavery, it is because the husband and wife is together. So what they do, they separate. And how you separate it becomes a culture that the wife must sleep with the elders of the village. Yes. So we now understand where the DNA comes from when it says the melanated family or the black family can hardly stay together because divorce is so prevalent within them. It's in their culture. It's in their DNA. So in order to propel that, why the only way we could do this, pray and ask God for some deliverance. So we subject ourselves to a system of a cultural aspect of a religion. So we become more inferior because instead of we seeing the clear light of day, in order to get rid of this, we prefer to be submissive. So we can't climb out of it. So the time we're using to climb out of this little battle that we have in our relationship, the world is going along its way. So it looks like the Caucasites they're advancing because they by the time we study to get out of the little carnage our relationship is going through, the Caucasites on the other side are getting along and they're advancing. It's not that. It's the democratic system was created to enslave us even more. So what does the democratic system brings? It brings oppression, it brings racism, it brings enslavement, murder, all these things. So in the time when we're fighting for what we call black rights and black power, in a democracy, they're advancing because we can't advance. And by the time we get over that, then we now got homosexuality to deal with because it becomes prevalent in our society. And how it becomes prevalent in our society because value of the man and woman now is not taught within the household. So the woman cleaves upon herself and the man cleaves upon his self. So both becomes lover of themselves. And this is now spread throughout our community because we are not knitted as a family. We think of independence. If you think I'm lying, you turn on the social media. Lots of African women sits on the social media and talking about being an independent woman. So where is the value of marriage and family? That isn't being taught anymore because the shadow system, which is democracy, has that on its forefront. So whilst they're empowering themselves and their independence, not only to be recognized as an independent woman, but an LGBTQ community, the world is slipping by. So by the time they catch themselves, they don't have anything to proclaim upon because it's all being gone. We're missing the picture. Hold on. The Romans brought in democracy after learning that Egypt, everything in Egypt, was based upon the melanated people. That is why they brought in democracy, because they see and realize that in a democracy, I can rule the world. If I don't bring in democracy and try to control democracy, well, then I cannot control the world. That's how they control everything. Democracy is based upon a belief system. So when Prophet Noble Jew Ali taught that as a Muslim, you cannot and you must not be submissive, everybody thought, well, then he's not teaching the right thing because they were already into this religious aspect. Who created religion? Man. And that's where it is. It is beneath their creation. It has never evolved. It is always stuck upon one thing, a belief system. That's why I would say church and politics is one together. Because in order for you to vote for me, you got to believe in me as a politician, where poly means more ticks, bloodsuckers. That's what politics means. That's the Latin word for it. And I'm asking myself, so I'm voting for a blood-sucking tick. Okay. And when you study the word politician, a group of people or persons who can convince a people to vote on their belief system, that's what politicians means. And support them based upon their belief system. That's what it means. So when it comes to where the Americas is and the Americites, who were the indigenous people who everybody came and meet, there was so much evidence why that particular era is going on in Africa. You had another era of aboriginals was going on in the Americas. We were all over this earth because we navigated this earth before anybody else could dream to come to different parts of the earth. We knew the land in which we lived upon. We knew the land in which we could navigate. We knew our backyard. That's why it was hard for them to fight a war with us in our own yard. They had to enter into a treaty of peace and friendship with us. They knew it. You think they didn't know it? They know it, that they don't want us to talk about it. Let me highlight you the places that there is enough evidence shows that the Aboriginal melanated people lived in these areas, especially the Moors in the Americas, Honduras, Panama, Haiti, Colombia, and Brazil. There is enough evidence, even in Argentina. There is so much evidence to show that we were a people before. Those who call themselves civilized now became part of the areas, or coming to the part of areas that we were living as settlers. All of them has an entry date. Every one of them, the Caucasites has an entry date. Let's start from Guyana. They say Guyana got 6 races, right? 5 of them got entry date, except for us. 5 of them has a date of entry. It's registered. It's cataloged. We can read and understand. And even if there's nothing registered, there's enough evidence that we have found that there were Aboriginal melanated people on these Americas long before those who came across the Bering Strait thousands of years ago. Why you think they came looking for El Dorado, the city of gold? Who wore it? I mean, you gotta ask yourself the question: how can you recognize gold? Put it on one wig and see it. It's going to shine from here till out of space. The fact is that we now as a people have to awake ourselves and liberate ourselves by proclaiming ourselves Native Americans. That proclamation must happen. We must say we are Moorish Americans to identify who we are and lay claim to the land that we enter into agreement of a treaty of peace and friendship with others of a corporation. We must not sit back idly by and allow them to take away what is ours. Everything, every book that you opened out and it talks about historical factors is being plagiarized. You study the origins of it and you'll realize where it came from. And they can't erase that part, they will hide it because they have to show the origins of things. So they're hoping all of that will be wiped out from this generation of Aboriginal people. So to sit here and to tell you, yes, my people, democracy is a myth and it's fiction. It's a shadow government. So it creates social unrest. The AIDS epidemic, the syphilis. Can you imagine the American government in the 1950 through the Central Executive Organization, the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, sorry, the CIA, and the Drug and Food Department tested syphilis on the Aboriginal population in the projects and in the Bronx. And it was a whistleblower who identified this, went on. Must you trust the same set of people that worked its way all the time to enslave you? Oh man, come on. How how can you trust the people that spent years in murdering you? It's like, okay, it's like this one we got here now, Jack Deal. How can you trust a man that's responsible for 1,480 deaths, Guyanese? He owned people. Saturday Osao was assassinated under his watch as the executive. You go about trusting the same. I mean, I'm trying to find out how can you trust the devil and then turn around and tell me that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is to convince the world that he doesn't exist. Well, I see Jack Dio steady. So it's hard for me. It's hard for you to convince me that he doesn't exist. Ask yourself this question, and even to those who to oh my gosh, for real. Even to those who has a date of entry that supports Jack Dio, ask yourself this question: how can you trust the devil in the flesh? That's a living soul. His works is worse than that is of evil. And to those who like me, how you could trust a man like that? Seriously. And not only that, look at everybody that comes under him. It's either they have a difference of identifying their characteristics or they're a person of special interest. Because none of them ain't fit nothing. And these people gone to England to tell Boris Yeltsin that he wants an apology. He's looking for a simple apology of slavery. I mean, oh, brother, are you that? Are you that? Are we that naive? Hmm? Are we that naive? Who's this? Kemchan Harinarain? Mr. Harinarain? Mr. Kemchan Harinarain. I can call your name. Let put you up here one time. Right? To those who are looking. Putting you up big. He says, Gavin, you don't know the history of your country. You're guessing your way. Kemchan, you came from Hindustani. The time that they had Pakistan, they had Hindustan. And even to that place that you came, you have date of entry there. You came, you went there and meet an Aboriginal set of people. 180,000 of them and they look like me. Mr. Kemchan Harino Ryan. They look like me. So you can imagine you ain't even know the history of your own country that you come from. But you come here as an indentured and telling me about my history, my lineage. Here, you in my state house the other day and drink this stupid tea Jack Jones drink, right? How this means live. I believe you went there. You went to drink this stupid tea. The beauty about it, Mr. Harina, right? I understand y'all don't like the truth. But the truth always have to prevail. You understand what I mean? Even into social studies that we teach in schools here in Guyana, Mr. Harina Ryan tells me about you and how you came to Guyana. So do not come around Gavin Matthews based upon the history of my the land in which I belong to. I belong to America, which is now called South America. I do not belong to Guyana, which is the corporation. You belong to Guyana, Mr. Harry Narayan, because you're part of the corporation. The corporation brought you here as an indentured laborer. You understand what I mean, Mr. Harry Narayan? The corporation brought you here as an indentured, so you have a date of entry. If you have a date of entry, well, then you're not knowledgeable of the fact of the land in which you are part of. I am now going through that process with you to let you know that this is the information. Formation of information. Formation of that which was taught years and thousands of years ago, put together to bring the history of the land to you. So before 1966, the corporation was never Guyana. It was British Guiana. It was a settlement to do goods and services on the area or land that you call the Americas. And they had entered into a peaceful treaty with those who lived upon the land that you call the Moors. Yes, Mr. Premchand Harry Narayan. So what you need to do is go back to find out the information that I provided to you to let you know even to the land in which you guys are part, you came from. You also had an entry date there because the people who you went there and meet were the Aboriginals. That was in the early 700s. The thing is that you didn't even know that you came across the African continent to end up where you are. In 746 BC. You didn't even know that. But you see, you got to call and let us have this conversation so I can basically edify you, keep you up to date. I can teach you what I've learned so far because it's free. You ain't gotta pay for it. You ain't gotta go to university to comprehend what I'm teaching you here. So when you came here and meet us, I understand what you're saying. But when you came and meet history, you cannot say what history is about. You haven't no clue. You came and meet a people like Columbus. And Columbus himself, in his first book, wrote that when he came to the Americas, he saw Aboriginal melanated people. The entire island of Hispaniola, which is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, had over 90 million people living on it. 90 million people. His brother, who was the then general, murdered at least 60 plus million within a space of 5 years. Mass genocide. As I'm about to conclude and close, I want to say thank you to all those who are joining in. I want to make this a special effort now so I can teach not only historical factors of the Aboriginal who are still part of these lands and who that corporations has met under a treaty of truth and friendship with them in order to do business upon their land in which they own in the Americas, Central America, North and South America, is to give you that information as it is so I can be able to edify those that you still have part of. So I want to say thank you very much. Stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. So, yes, they're clipping me on and off, but the numbers still remain the same. Call me in case of any questions, and I'll be able to answer you. So, good night. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey, and Cheerios for now.